Welcome to the fifth and final installment in our Making Difficult People Disappear series. Now, in earlier episodes, I've shared with you that making people disappear is actually about changing your mindset, changing your attitude, changing how you choose to interact with these other people. So as we wrap up the five-part series today, I just want to close out by emphasizing again the importance of focusing on self. Making difficult people disappear starts with you managing yourself and how you show up, and not with trying to change those other people. Now, the reason I decided to write my upcoming book is that throughout my career as a manager myself, someone who was a technical worker, a knowledge worker, and then transitioned into management. And then as I became a manager myself, seeing others struggle with the transition. And now in my practice as an executive coach, I realized that some really good people, some really talented technical and knowledge workers struggle mightily when they transition from individual contributor to manager. And part of that is that they now have to move from being responsible for completing a task on their own to getting things done with and through others. And that's where the difficult people show up. But as we've learned, it's not necessarily that the people are difficult, it's that we need to change how we view them and how we interact with them. So in my upcoming book, the first part of the book is devoted to managing self. And we focus on developing self-awareness as a precursor to self-regulation. And these are all components of emotional intelligence. So first of all, to become aware of how we ourselves show up in any given situation. We all have blind spots. And if we don't have people who are close enough to us, who care enough about us to give us that feedback, they will remain blind spots. So it's important for us to actively seek out information about how we show up. Because as I said in one of the previous episodes, sometimes we're the difficult people in the room and we don't even know it, but everyone else is aware of it. So we really do need to get feedback about ourselves. Once we are aware of how we're perceived, how we're showing up, what our triggers are, we can then regulate. Because our emotions are important, but we don't need to let ourselves be hijacked by our emotions. We can make choices about which emotions we act on. And so in terms of self-mastery, it's important for you to do the work on yourself rather than focusing on how you get these difficult people to go away, to disappear. And something that I like to use with my coaching clients and in my training is the circles of control, influence, and concern. There are many things in the world that concern you, many things, from climate change to the price of fuel at the pump to, crime and violence. All of these are things that probably concern you. Do you have the capacity to change them? You may be able to make a contribution, but they're definitely not within your control. So if you're going to spend most of your time focusing on things that concern you, but over which you have neither influence or control, the only thing that's going to increase is your stress level. So as you make the quest to have difficult people disappear, one of the things that I invite you to do, encourage you to do, is shift your focus from your circle of concern. So you're concerned that these people are difficult, but you can't do anything about it if you just stay there being concerned about it. You're only driving up your stress levels. Ask yourself, what about this situation do I control? What about this situation can I influence? And that's where you focus your time and your energy. So I'll tell you a real story from my own experience as a manager. There was a point in time where there was a particular individual who was in my work life. The individual wasn't my boss, but they did have a certain level of authority over me. And I thought they were the most difficult person in the world. It got to the point where I dreaded going to work because I'm like, okay, what's going to happen today with this individual? And that's when I came across Monica Wofford's book, Making Difficult People Disappear. And I downloaded that to my Kindle. I stayed up all night because I was like, by tomorrow morning, I'm going to disappear this person. And of course, as I read the book, I came to realize that I could only focus on what I controlled, and what I controlled was me, and how I showed up, and how I chose to respond to the situation, and what my expectations were. And there's a metaphor that's really beautiful and very relatable for me, because there was a time in my life when I used to raise Doberman. And compare a Doberman, which is an elegant, gorgeous, loyal breed of dog, to a Jack Russell, much smaller dog, totally different personality. Here's the thing, if you go through life expecting Jack Russells to behave as if they were Doberman, you're going to be disappointed every single time. But is that the Jack Russell's fault? Because you have expectations that are unrealistic. And so it is with some of the difficult people in our lives. We expect them to think a certain way, to believe certain things, to show up a certain way, and those expectations may not be valid. So in terms of turning the corner on those difficult relationships that you have, on the difficult people that you may have in your life, whether it's a boss, a peer, a direct report, start with you. Focus on the things that you can control or influence, primarily your mindset, your expectations, and how you choose to respond. So there you have it. Those are the secrets to making difficult people disappear. It starts with you, so you have the power to make that change. So I wish you all the best, and please continue to follow us. We'll be addressing other issues, other topics to help you master your transition from individual contributor to people manager. And even if you don't have an official title, if you just want to be more influential within your sphere, whether it's work or in your social life or in your family life, these tips can be very helpful for you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next session.